Extra thick!
What's poppin', YouTube? Extra Thick Games, back with you again tonight. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit tonight about another card discussion, but more specifically, I guess, more of a card concept discussion. Specifically, deck thinning cards, namely Upstart Goblin. Now, I'm sure any of you who have been playing this game any sort of consistently for the past few years or anything know what this card does. It's very simple. You get to draw one card from your deck and your opponent gains 1,000 life points. Now, if you think about this, if you were able to play this with 3 copies in any particular deck, you might as well just be playing with a 37 card deck, because it is the most basic of 1-for-1 cards that just thins your deck with no requirements and no cost for you. Now, unfortunately, in I believe 2016, this card did get limited to 1, so the possibility of a 37 card deck went out the window with that particular ban list, but the possibility for 39 card decks is still very much a possibility, although not necessarily as consistent. Now, I say 39 card decks specifically because this is the optimal way to play a card like that, and really the only way this card ever should be played, period. Now let me tell you what I mean like that. I have seen among definitely newer and more casual players, not people who go to their locals or YCSs or regionals or any sort of tournaments like that, namely newer players or just really casual players who might need this kind of concept to be clarified, but I've seen players with cards that are above 40, with decks that are above 40 cards. We're talking 50 card decks, we're talking 60 card decks. Yes, even with That Grass is Greener still having been banned going on a year now, however long it's been, 60 card decks are still very much a thing. Look at Drift Gaming with his 60 card pendulum decks, topping a YCS when no one else would have even dreamed to do something like that. These strategies are still very, very real. But there's no place for a card like Upstart Goblin in these strategies. At that point, you really might as well literally just play 59 cards, and it would be the exact same thing, with the only difference being you're not giving your opponent more life points. That is the only reason why a card like Upstart Goblin would be played, is so that you can have fewer cards technically in your deck so that you can get to your combo pieces and your play extenders that much quicker. Now, the same kind of concept applies, I guess, to things like Toon Table of Contents per se. I've seen people run that kind of deck thinning engine, again, in decks that are significantly larger than 40 cards. And there's absolutely no reason for this. There's no point whatsoever, unless you're playing some crazy 60 card Toon variant. I've never seen that before. If anyone has seen a good variant of that deck, I would love for you to show that to me. But if you're just trying to thin your deck, this really only works if your deck is already as thin as it can be. You want to get to your combo and extenders faster, right? So if you're playing a 60 card deck with Toon Table of Contents and I guess of another target for that last copy of the spell card, that's 4 cards you've got here. And most notably, people play what? Either Blue Eyes Toon Dragon as a trade-in target, or maybe Toon World as just a throwaway card. So just play the 56 cards. It doesn't have to be an aesthetic number like 60. There's absolutely no reason for this. And I have heard the counter-argument about running it with Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, that it's another trade-in target if your deck runs several trade-in targets. But at that point, you are just increasing your odds of putting a dead card in your hand in the event that you don't have that trade-in with you when you activate your first Toon Table of Contents. I hope this makes sense. This is really just trying to clarify and help newer and more casual players make optimal deck building choices, because when the kind of concept of playing as few cards as possible is introduced, you want to play those sort of cards in as many strategies as you possibly can, but really it's not for every single deck. Really, I think a card like Upstart Goblin should only be put into a deck in a situation like the following one. So, say you've started building the deck that you want to play, and you've come up with your 40 cards, and you're going into playtesting. Or maybe you jump straight into your locals, or maybe you're playing with your friend, and your build isn't doing as well as you thought it would be. There's one card, maybe two cards in the build that you see more than you want to, and it breaks your hand. A card that, say, works better in theory of running it than in practice of running it. If the card is suboptimal in any generic situation, not a situational one, those don't happen nearly as often as the players would hope for them to. If this card that is breaking your hand would not help you in any given scenario, cut the card and throw your Upstart Goblin in there, or don't throw the Upstart Goblin in there. Maybe throw in either another Searcher, or Combo Piece, or Extender, or hell, even a Hand Trap. That could be the difference between winning and losing right there. Because even if it's not something that's extending your own board, if it's something that can interrupt your opponent's, that's really just as good. I hope this sort of ramble has helped anybody in their thought process of building a deck and trying to make it as consistent as possible. Let me know down in the comments if it did, and as always, stay thick.
Extra thick!